Sinisterism is about finding the primal aspects of the left-hand path, primal in history, primal in the psyche, thus obtaining truth.
Now, I have many interests, and the one that seized my attention of late is traditionalism. I've brought up traditionalism more than once on this channel, both overtly and covertly. And when I say tradition, I'm not talking about Thanksgiving, baseball, and apple pie. I'm talking about something much deeper, much more profound. What is traditionalism, you may ask? The generic definition would be the belief that there's a primordial divine order, the tradition, that reflects the transcendent, eternal truth underlying all authentic religions and spiritual practices. It's a return to a sacred hierarchy, not just socially, but metaphysically. This philosophy, even though some would argue if it is truly a philosophy, was codified by the mystic René Guénon in the early part of the 20th century. It was also practiced by someone many occultists might be familiar with, Julius Evola. And contemporary traditionalists would be the Russian intellectual Alexander Dugin and Trump's buddy, Steve Bannon. Kind of. Also, this is important, traditionalism is not the same as fascism. All right, they're two very different things. Now, Evola did dabble in the original Italian fascism until he realized that it had very little to do with tradition and was simply another byproduct of modernity. Now, traditionalism's key points are stuff like man's goal is reintegration with the divine, not self-deification. The ego must be transcended, not glorified. The cosmos is ordered, hierarchy is sacred, and society should mirror the cosmic hierarchical system that is priest, warrior, merchant, and peasant. This caste system is also reflected in the idea of the ages, or yugas, beginning with the golden age of the priestly caste. The priestly caste is not just a social role, but a spiritual principle that represents the highest order of human existence. Next is the Silver Age of the warriors. Then the Bronze Age of the merchants, the Iron Age of the peasants, or commonly known in esoteric circles as the Kali Yuga. And it's believed that that's where we are today, beginning roughly 6,000 years ago. But just as there are fractals within fractals, there are aeons within the greater ages, meaning that there were time periods when there were many golden, silver, bronze, and iron ages within the greater yugas. An example would be back 4,000 years ago with the Aeon of Aries and the rise of Greco-Roman cultures, an age of master morality and a return to the sacred order. An age tainted, though, with the invention of democracy. Then 2,000 years ago came the Aeon of Pisces with the ascension and descension of the Christ current, an age that brought us holy warriors with knights in shining armor. It did give rise to the Renaissance and the Enlightenment, though, both seen by the traditionalists not as progression, instead taken us further away from the sacred order by making us materialistic in more ways than one. Thus, this period can be seen as not only as the silver age of the warrior, but also the bronze age of the merchant caste. And finally, with the Aeon of Aquarius and the rise of Leviathan, we have the age of the peasant caste, with society's emphasis on the downtrodden and marginalized. Now, how did this all begin? What are the roots of tradition, and why is the priestly caste on top? Well, even though it's been said by some that Ganon did not mean for the yugas to be interpreted from a historical perspective, we're going to try it anyway. It could be that within small Neolithic tribes, one person could have filled the role of both shaman and leader, especially if the sacred was deeply woven into everyday life. That's an important aspect right there. The more a society is connected to the sacred, the world of spirit, if you will, the more important the position of priest or shaman would be. And as a society drifts away from the sacred, the eternal, and the transcendent, becoming more materialistic, as in finding reality only in 3 dimensions, the further down the hierarchy it falls. Okay, some of you might be thinking, Thomas Leroy, have you become a traditionalist? Now, wait a second, my friends. You may have noticed that traditionalism, with its light, transcendence, sacred kingship, obedience to divine laws, and so on, corresponds to the right-hand path. One could say it is, in many ways, antithetical to Sinisterism. For those of you new to this channel, Sinisterism, besides connecting with the primal aspects of the left-hand path, is the belief that divinity is to be created or realized within the individual through transgression, will, and becoming. It values self-deification, the conscious shaping of one's own destiny through darkness, opposition, and personal gnosis. We believe the cosmos is amoral. Order and chaos are tools, not masters. The goal is apotheosis, to become a god, not to merge with one. The ego is refined and exalted, not dissolved. And we believe that transgression and confrontation with darkness are transformative. So, where the goal in traditionalism is union with the sacred order, in Sinisterism, it's self-deification through transgression and individuation. Traditionalism seeks reunification with the eternal, while Sinisterism seeks dominion within eternity. But even though they're metaphysical opposites, they mirror each other in their rejection of modernity. But don't get me wrong, as I've said before, I like the fact we have antibiotics and indoor plumbing, but I despise what the Western world has become at its core. It's a dystopia filled with nihilistic reanimated cadavers waiting for that next dopamine fix. A world of mediocrity, nihilism, and Nietzsche's last man. So yeah, you can say we and the traditionalists share that in common, but where we differ greatly is that they believe in submission to the sacred, while we believe that rebellion will lead us toward godhood. So, could there be a sinister traditionalism, a uniting of the depth and metaphysical discipline of traditionalism with the individualistic transgression of the left-hand path? Why not? Now, this wouldn't be Satanism dressed up in the language of Ganon or Evola, nor simply traditionalism with a dark aesthetic. Instead, it's the realization that the dark, dissolving, and adversarial forces of existence, those rejected by the right-hand path, also have a sacred role in the unfolding of being. Where most traditionalists would see the left-hand path as degeneration, the sinister traditionalist sees it as an initiation through descent, that divinity can be realized through the self rather than submission to a divine order. Thus, transgression, shadow work, and confrontation with the chaos are methods of awakening. It's a path that goes inward toward individuation and apotheosis. Where the traditionalist maintains the cosmic order, the sinistrist tests, destroys, and renews it. To the sinistrist, the Kali Yuga is not just decline, but an alchemical descent. Where the traditionalist believes it's important to be of the solar, of the sky father, of vertical ascent, we are of the lunar, of the dark gods of chthonic descent. We are not of the light, but of the dark absolute of the abyss, and that which rises up from its depths. In conclusion, my friends, it would be a good idea for the sinisterist initiate to explore traditionalist themes in order to broaden their horizons. Education, especially knowledge of the ancient ways, is paramount. You would be surprised what can aid you on your path. But just remember that the traditionalist seeks to surrender to the sacred order within the primordial light. Their philosophy is of the right-hand path, while the sinistrist accepts the alchemical rites of self-overcoming within the primordial darkness. Until next time.